Will the Carolina Hurricanes trade Brett Pesce in the coming days? We will talk about all of that and more in this episode of Locked On Hurricanes.
You're Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, Caniacs. I'm your host, Jared Ellis, and you're listening to Locked On Hurricanes on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And as always, thank you for making Locked On Hurricanes your first listen of this late Friday night, Saturday morning, whenever you are listening to us. And I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Andrew Schnittker. How are you doing on this late night, Andrew?
I'm doing well. Looking forward to breaking down some more Hurricanes rumors.
Yes, we have obviously talked about the potential Brett Pesce trade is starting to look more and more likely. It's something that just is not dying down, and it picked up a lot of steam earlier this afternoon. And given this is all speculation, nothing is confirmed of happening, not happening, all of that stuff. We don't know if this trade is going to happen. It's just been one that has been on the block for a while, and we obviously know several teams have called Don Waddell and the Carolina Hurricanes asking about Brett Pesce. But earlier today, Brian Pesce, Brett Pesce's dad, who a lot of folks follow on Twitter, he's very active amongst the Hurricanes fan base. He tweeted this out earlier this afternoon, this evening at 5:31 p.m. on July 7th. He said, quote, "Just wanted to say thank you to all of my Caniac friends for support of Brett. Means so much to me. Over the years, never imagined I could connect and love the fans of Raleigh as I do. What an incredibly passionate fan base you are. Whatever happens, I love you all." And as Andrew said before we started recording, Brian Pesce is not the Hurricanes GM, so he's not going to have final say on all this stuff. But with him putting out something like that, it does feel like this is more and more likely to happen, because you feel like, okay, probably, if you're putting something out like that, that's probably not a good sign.
Yeah, that felt like a goodbye to me
It
from
did.
Brian Pesce to the Hurricanes fan base. And again, we don't know the timelines for this. We don't know if this is imminent. Obviously, these kinds of trades can be complicated to work out. And, Brian himself did say in a reply to somebody, nothing confirmed, just a lot of rumors swirling. I think, when you look at what the Hurricanes have done with their defense in terms of bringing in Dmitry Orlov, they'll bring back Tony DeAngelo, I think, like today, July 8th, I think is the day that they can do that, today or tomorrow, this weekend. They're still in pursuit of Erik Carlson. They're going to have to subtract at least one defenseman, especially if they do add Carlson. All the talk has been about Brett Pesce, about him potentially being shopped, teams interested in him because of the value that he brings, which we've been over. And him with a year left on his contract, the Hurricanes, feels unlikely that they're going to extend him. So, yeah, I think sooner than later, and by that I mean, maybe within the next couple weeks or so, some point this offseason at least, I do expect Brett Pesce to get traded to somewhere else. It's just all the rumors and signs are pointing in that direction. Things can change. Things have changed in the past, but yeah, right now it does not look good for Brett Pesce's long-term future with the Carolina Hurricanes.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that tweet. It did feel like a goodbye. It really did, and it's gonna suck regardless. Obviously, we hope that's not the case. Like you said, anything can happen. But yeah, you made a good point. Yeah, the Hurricanes have added a lot to their defense already this offseason. Adding Orlov, it's not likely, it's gonna happen. Bringing back Tony DeAngelo, still being in the mix for Erik Carlson. Someone's going to have to go, and it does feel like Brett Pesce is the odd man out. And obviously we don't know all of the teams that have called. That's probably something we're not really ever gonna know, unless whenever the team does make the trade for him, we'll know that they called. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where he ends up, because the Hurricanes are going to want a nice return for someone like Brett Pesce. Nashville is evidently still in the mix for this. We talked about it the other day. Nashville not really having a whole heck of a lot to really offer the Hurricanes for Brett Pesce, at least in a 2-team trade. Maybe if there's a 3-team trade, okay, maybe something, there of bringing, another team into the mix for the trade. But one thing that I found interesting is we know that Tony DeAngelo trade is going to happen. Does Philly, you know, are they involved in the Pesci trade? Like, maybe not in like, he goes to Philly, but in terms of, multi-team trade of like, okay, that relationship's already there. Maybe all the weird stuff that has to happen with trades and, make money work and whatnot. Does Is Philly involved in this Pesci trade at any level? I don't think so. But the only reason I bring it up is because we know that trade with them is going to be happening here in the next couple days.
Yeah, I think this whole Pesci thing is completely separate from the business of bringing Tony DeAngelo back from Philly. I wouldn't think they'd be involved. I wouldn't think, given the status of the rebuild that they're in, the way they're jettisoning players
Yeah.
right now, that that's a place that Brett Pesci would want to sign a long-term extension at this moment in time. The one thing I think we can, you can look at, there was a report from David Pagnotta of the Fourth Period. He was on NHL Network talking about the Hurricanes and Brett Pesci. Say you send him to Nashville and you get, if you're not getting a roster player back, I think the Hurricanes are going to want a first-round pick. And we've talked about this as well. Say you get that first-round pick from them, and then you use that pick or any other assets you get from them in a potential Erik Karlsson trade or a trade from someone else. Or a friend of mine even brought this up today. If the Hurricanes are going to get Erik Karlsson, San Jose would have to retain salary. I think they can retain up to 50%. But remember, there's the provision where I think you can get an additional team to retain more salary. So maybe that becomes part of the Pesci trade. They trade Pesci somewhere else. That team, as part of that, also retains more salary on Erik Karlsson. Just something to think about. You're talking about retaining salary for like 4 years, so I'm not sure if somebody would want to do that, but I think there's a lot of moving parts in a lot of ways that this can end up.
Yeah, I think so as well. And you bring up Erik Karlsson, and that's a name that the Hurricanes have been rumored to be in on for quite some time now. And we'll talk about how he and Brett Pesce could be involved in a potential trade right after this quick break, folks. Now, folks, baseball season is underway. You guys know we love baseball. You've seen Andrew wear countless Kansas City Royals shirts. You've seen me wear Detroit Tigers shirts. We don't like good baseball teams. But if you do, you can take your first swing betting on MLB on FanDuel and get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets up to $200. That's right, just $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200 you can spend betting on everything from the money line to the over under to who you think is going to hit the first home run. All on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet on the MLB than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So sign up today and visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/locked-on. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball. Now, you mentioned that report from earlier about Erik Karlsson. And this is a trade that I think a lot of folks want to happen. It seems like the Hurricanes are just trying to build a super team, and bringing in Erik Karlsson, that would add a lot to the Hurricanes. And he's obviously one that's going to have a lot of trade value. He just won the Norris, so obviously, he's going to have some value there. And Pesci being a guy, that I think could definitely be involved in that trade with San Jose, because obviously if San Jose is giving up Eric Carlson again, just coming off of winning the Norris on that Sharks team, they're gonna want a decent return. And I think sending Brett Pesce out San Jose's way, considering they are going to have to retain salary for Carlson. I think that could be something there that, like, hey, you send us Eric Carlson, retain 50% salary or whatever the max is for. I believe you're right. It is 50%, and we'll send you Brett Pesce and whatever else would be involved in the deal. And then, like you said, if another team could get involved with retaining some salary. I remember not last season, but when the Hurricanes traded for Max Domi, Florida retained a bit of salary for that. So the Hurricanes have done something like that in recent years. Given that was just a trade deadline rental, this would obviously be one where someone would have to have that on their books for a bit. So you kind of got to figure, what team would want to do that for a player that's not even playing for them, for multiple years, not just for half a season. But it's definitely one I could see San Jose really being in the mix for that, for Brett Pesce, if the Hurricanes really do want to pursue Eric Carlson.
Yeah, it's an interesting one there because San Jose is pretty deep in a rebuild right now.
Mm-hmm.
You got to wonder if they would be a team on Brett Pesce's 15 trade list because of that. That's something you would have to look at potentially. Would he be willing to bend for that? Because the interesting thing with San Jose is you're probably like Pesci's probably not going to sign long term there, but all of a sudden, if you get Pesce, you've got another asset that you can flip. Before the season starts, during the season, at the deadline, probably get at least a first round pick and a decent prospect back for a guy like Brett Pesce. So yeah, that's definitely something I could see happening. Or, like we said, the Hurricanes send Pesce elsewhere, Nashville, Buffalo, Edmonton, wherever, and get assets back for that and flip them for Carlson. I think whether it's directly or indirectly, I think the Eric Carlson trade and a Brett Pesce trade would certainly be linked together.
Yeah, I agree for sure. And, we don't know who's on his trade list, and all the ins and outs of this stuff. That's some information we're never going to know on that. But it does feel like this is one that is starting to ramp up and really gain some steam of, like, this feels like it's gonna happen sooner rather than later. And as far as the question is, when will it happen, I feel like it's definitely something that draft is done, free agency, that's died down for the most part now. I do feel like this is something that we could see happen probably within the next week, 2 weeks or so, given it could happen. Well, we seem to have a history of news breaking when we're recording, but at 12:15 a.m., I don't think it's going to happen. But it does feel like this is something that it's going to happen sooner rather than later.
Yeah, potentially. We have seen big trades like these drag into August or even closer to training camp in September before. But yeah, I think this is one where you want to, teams want to start putting the pieces together, figure out whatever other pieces or moves they want to make in relation are. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if this happens in the next couple of weeks. We know the Hurricanes are among the front runners for Eric Carlson. We know the Penguins are involved as well. Obviously, again, over 100 points last year as a defenseman. We've been talking about them trying to bring in an elite goal scorer, but you kind of look at, does bringing in just that extreme level of offensive production for your blue line. And again, I've said it, one of the very, very best offensive defensemen of an NHL history. Adding that to your team, I think that boosts your scoring a lot too, and just gives you,
Mhm.
another guy who can just go out there and just make things happen.
Yeah, because let's given the whole Tarasenko stuff. Let's just say they're out there. It's not going to happen. And I don't remember who else is on the market in terms of just forwards, but say there's no one else that's really catching their eye that they want to spend their money on. Like, okay, we can't get Tarasenko. Carlson, he could be a good consolation prize for, just like you said, like, you add that much offense to your blue line. I feel like that's something that's gonna, carry over and just help boost everyone up. Uh, in terms of offensive production, I do think that could be a viable option for the Hurricanes should they not sign Tarasenko, trade for Lindholm, or some other move that we've talked about this offseason. But yeah, I do think that is one that I think you're right, that could be good for the Hurricanes.
Well, it's the mindset that we've talked about before, right? You go out, yes, you have positions of need like a goal scoring forward, but at the end of the day, you go out and you look for ways to acquire good players and make your team better.
Hmm.
And that's a philosophy that Don Waddell and this front office have always had. I mean, we saw it on the first day
Hmm.
of free agency. Who would have expected them to go out and sign the best defenseman on the market in Dmitry Orlov? But they saw an opportunity to add a good to great player to their lineup, and they did it.
Hmm.
Going back, I go back again to the Dougie Hamilton trade. At the time they had Jacob Slavin, Brett Pesce, Noah Hannafin, Justin Falk. So one wouldn't have thought that, a defenseman would be a need and that it would be up front, but they go out and get an elite offensive defenseman to make their team better, and it does exactly that. So I think that's kind of the same mindset you have to have here with Erik Karlsson.
Yeah, I 100% agree because you throw him out there on the ice. He's out there. With Sebastian Aho, out there at the same time or whatever. That could be great. That could set up some great stuff, and I really think adding to someone like that could really help take some of the Hurricanes forwards to the next level. Andre Svechnikov, Sebastian Aho, Marty Necas, Spirit Kotkaniemi. I think having someone like that, with his playmaking ability and his offensive capability, that could really help elevate everyone on the Hurricanes roster. It's one I would like to see happen, given anything can happen and things can change at the drop of a dime. But it's one that's going to be really fun to continue to watch. Like we said, we do feel like the Pesci trade will likely be happening sooner rather than later. But in the meantime, the Hurricanes prospect development camp, we're starting to get some more information on that. And we're going to have a quick overview of that development camp and some news around that right after this quick break, folks. All right, folks, we're back, and now it's time to switch gears and talk about the Hurricanes prospect development camp. This is, one we've talked about already a little bit, but we finally have the schedule for it. It was released the other day on July 6th. So folks, may have had, a bit of time to read over this, but we will talk about it anyway. On Sunday, July 9th, tomorrow, actually, technically, is when the players arrive. No media availability for that. They're just coming in, getting settled, all that kind of stuff. On Monday is the fitness testing and on ice testing. And then on Tuesday is the skills session. Wednesday is team skate. Thursday is another skills sessions, and then full team 3-on-3. So nice little schedule for these guys coming out. Again, they did release the roster for it as well. Won't go through all of it simply because we will probably butcher a lot of these names. I think that's fair. But a big one on here that I know a lot of folks are excited to see is the Hurricanes' first-round draft pick, Bradley Nadeau. He is on there. I know a lot of folks are going to be excited to see him. Scott Morrow, he is another guy on there that I know folks are going to be excited to see. And any other notable names that I can see off the top of my head. And no, I do not see anyone that I feel comfortable trying to pronounce their name, to be honest, Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, a guy like Justin Robidas, he's been in the system a couple of years now, intriguing prospect. I had another one and I lost my place here. Dominic Fensor, a defensive prospect who could be a potential, contributor down the line. So yeah, I mean, these events are always fun. It's fun to see the Hurricanes prospects. It's informal. You can't glean a lot about it, but it's just fun to see these guys get out there, kind of get the start of their NHL journeys. I can remember, it's a shame they don't do like the Saturday prospect scrimmage like they used to do. I can remember going to a lot of those in the mid 2000s, having some fun, seeing Sergei Tolchinsky, a prospect development camp legend with his skills. I remember I think it was 2015, Sebastian Aho was there out of his draft year, and he scored a hat trick in the prospect scrimmage. And just seeing him out there among the prospects that week was when, the way he stood out in that scrimmage was when, I say you can't glean a lot, but that week you were, seeing Aho out there, you were kind of like, okay, this guy might be something. It was already set in stone that he was going to be going back to Finland that year and then coming to the Hurricanes the next year. But I remember that, that was kind of a cool moment in prospect development camp history. If you were out there to see Sebastian Aho that week in 2015, you got a glimpse of what he could be.
Yep. And it's going to be fun. I know, like I said, first name mentioning Bradley Nadeau. I know a lot of folks are excited, to be able to go out and get their first, for what a lot of folks is going to be their first look at him in person. I know a lot of folks are excited for that. I'm definitely going to try to get out there on a day off to watch some of this. And then also news that came out also on the 6th is Alyssa. God, I can never pronounce her last name. Gallardi. Correct me if I'm pronouncing that wrong, Andrew. She is returning to the Hurricanes to help coach in the prospect development camp. She used to be a part of the Hurricanes organization, but she did leave and was an assistant coach at what university was it? I lost my place. I do not know how to pronounce that university men's ice hockey program. She's an assistant coach at Newman University.
Newman is what I'd go with.
Yeah. But yeah, that's where she was coaching last year, and I'm excited to see her back. She has a long history of coaching, so for her, to be able to come back is going to be really fun. She coached the Junior Canes girls team from 2019 to 2022. So of course, that's relationships already built in with the Hurricanes. So to see her come back and bring her knowledge of the game to these guys is going to be great. She spent multiple years playing in the CWHL, the NWHL, won the inaugural Isabel Cup with the Boston Pride, and she knows what she's talking about. So like we talk about with Rod Brind'amour, been there, done that. She it's not just some guy or some woman just that has never played, telling you what to do. Like, no, she's done this. She knows what she's talking about. So I'm excited to see what she can help bring to the table there as well. And where was I? I did see it in here somewhere in the press release for this, that she was also going to come back to the Hurricanes at some point in the season.
Yeah.
As far as when on that, I just found it. Will also return to Raleigh to work alongside the Hurricanes coaches at some point during the 23-24 season. As far as when that will be, don't know. But excited to have her back in coaching capacity as well.
Yeah, she's part of the NHL Coaches Association
Hmm.
Female Coaches Development Program. I think that's a great thing that's going on that the Hurricanes are participating in, helping women learn and grow in a space that's traditionally been a male dominated space, a space that women absolutely belong in and deserve to have these opportunities. So to see Alyssa getting that here, to see the Hurricanes be a part of it, I think that's great. The Hurricanes have really made a lot of I've really invested and made a lot of contributions to women and girls hockey in the area. I know they've made some sizable donations to establishing more girls hockey programs in the area. You mentioned the girls junior canes. You look at NC State and their women's club hockey team. So women's hockey in the Triangle is growing, and that's awesome to see. And I think this could certainly play a huge role in that.
Yeah, and if she, like we said, she's going to come back at some point during the season. So if they can, keep her here, that would be awesome. To continue her work and growing the sport here in Raleigh and the surrounding area, that would be great. I'm super excited to have her back here, having had spoken to her before. She's awesome, and I can't wait to have her back. Hopefully, talk to her a bit, at the development camp. Uh, but yeah, I'm excited for this. It's going to be fun. I'm excited to be able to watch some of these guys. Again, Nadeau being a standout here, really excited to be able to see him. Are there any other guys there on that prospect development camp roster, Andrew, that you want to uh, that you're excited to talk, or that you're excited to see uh, before we go?
Yeah, Ville Koivunen is one. I think he played a little bit in the AHL towards the tail end of last season. A Finnish winger who I think has a lot of skill. Second round pick in 2021. He's a guy who I think a lot of people like, who could potentially be a future contributor to the Hurricanes. They've done well with those Finns, and at these events when it's more practice stuff, more skill oriented. The 3-on-3, these skill guys like that have a tendency to stand out and are really fun to watch. So he's a guy I would definitely have an eye on as well. And yeah, you mentioned you'll be getting out there. Unfortunately, I won't, but this is always a fun thing because it's your opportunity to get that little taste of hockey during the summer.
Yeah, I'm really excited for it. It's going to be fun. We'll obviously talk about it as it goes on. Any news that comes out there, anyone that's standing out, we'll talk about it here on this show. So make sure you're following along at LO_Hurricanes on Twitter. Follow myself on Twitter at JaredEllis_96 and Andrew on Twitter at ASchnit53. And we will talk to you guys in the next episode. And as always, let's go Canes.